Straight ahead on IU NewsNet, graduate workers threatening an April strike. Get some interesting news from IU about their pay rate. We'll have the latest.
You have seen chips, drinks, and cookies in vending machines, but what about COVID tests? We will show you something new inside an IMU vending machine next.
And what's up with the ladies? We will take you behind the scenes of how a premier performance group preps for their spring concert. IU NewsNet starts now. IU's graduate workers who may be on the verge of a strike just got some unexpected news. Let's join my co-anchor Steffi Zhang across the studio for more.
Thanks, Samantha. Graduate workers have been threatening a strike, but now they have something new to consider. IU NewsNet's Haley Ryan has followed this story for more than a year. Haley.
Thanks, Steffi. Throughout the school year, IU's graduate workers have tabled on campus, held town halls, and staged a work-in. And just as they pledged to possibly go on strike, IU is announcing a pay raise. After a semester of tension, union now! Demands for a living wage, and union recognition.
Every time I tell my other progressives at other universities,
The Indiana Graduate Workers Coalition says it's prepared to go even further. More than 600 of its graduate student workers say they are willing to strike. A vote is scheduled on April 10th. If it happens, the coalition is asking workers to not conduct their classes or the work they do, like leading discussions or grading, all right before finals.
We don't want to strike, but at this point it is out of necessity.
They are upset at the IU administration's refusal to recognize what they say is their right to form a union. Just this week, the IU administration announced a raise of at least 5% to a minimum of $18,000 across IU Bloomington and even IU PUI.
We want to learn more about what they say is the particular issue here at IU Bloomington that we can address and other places across the university.
At the media school, the stipend increase is even higher. Graduate student academic appointees can expect a total stipend of $19,000.
We said we're taking this money, and even though we have a number of other needs, we're applying it immediately to the grad students.
Among IU admin and other faculty, there is concern in regard to the strike pledge, but certain departments and more than 150 faculty members have committed to neutrality, and in some cases, support.
For me, is that our undergraduates get the kind of education that they've paid for, and that they are able to not lose any time making progress to their degrees.
But will the stipend increases be enough to hold off a potential strike?
The prospects of a strike are still on the table.
Once again, a strike authorization vote is currently scheduled for April 10th. To learn more about the Graduate Workers Coalition, visit indianagradworkers.org. Now, back to you.
There are now 2 COVID test vending machines on campus. You heard correctly. You can get a COVID test from a vending machine. The tests are free for IU students, faculty, and staff. The COVID test vending machines work just like any other vending machine, and you can find them located either in the Circle Drive at the IMU or the Center Building of McNutt. IU's COVID expert Dr. Aaron Carroll said this will help decrease human contact with potential COVID patients. In addition, it increases accessibility of the tests.
This way, even at off hours, early morning, late at night, doesn't matter when it is, someone could pick up a vial, provide a sample, and drop it off for when testing is next available, as opposed to have to trying to, either make an appointment or make sure that you're there when someone is there to drop it off.
While COVID numbers are still low on campus, the FDA just approved another booster shot for people over age 50. That's because a new COVID strand is making its way into the U.S.
COVID has been a challenge for students everywhere, but especially for international students on the IU campus. IU NewsNet's Noah Harrison joined us with the story.
That's right. For some international students now in Bloomington, COVID nearly took away their opportunity to pursue higher education here in the United States.
Every year, thousands of students from across the globe gather together to make Indiana University their home. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has made the journey to Bloomington nearly impossible for some international students.
when the pandemic happened and when borders were closed and visas were not being issued for international students.
Musa Hassan is a graduate student from Pakistan. Issues with funding prevented him from starting his degree in the fall of 2019. The pandemic forced him to wait another semester. Being denied his study visa was the last thing Hassan expected.
Once you're admitted to a grad school and once you know for sure where your funding is going to be coming from, it's pretty much guaranteed that the visa is going to go through.
As expected, this delay has taken its toll on his degree plan.
I don't have the luxury of, taking my time with that sort of thing.
Hassan is not alone.
We found a lot of students were impacted in their home country, so parents' businesses failed because of COVID, and then they didn't have enough money to continue their studies.
Despite IU's attempt to make every international student feel right at home, the burden of academics has made it difficult for Hassan to adapt to life here in Bloomington.
Like I've spent the better part of a year inside of an apartment and inside of my bedroom specifically. That's like sometimes I forget that I'm in a different country because of that.
Despite the hardships, to Hassan, proving his self-sufficiency makes all the trouble worth it.
Thanks, Noah. Every day seems to bring more misery to Ukraine, but Russian forces are taking major losses as well. Ukrainian resistance is forcing some Russian military units home or to Belarus to resupply. Ukraine and Russia are in negotiations, but Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says it has been only words, no resolution. Zelensky says Russian troops are gathering in the Donbas region for new attacks. Half of the Ukrainian city Irpin has been destroyed, and the U.S. has sent another $500 million in aid to Ukraine. There are more than 5,000 miles between Bloomington and Ukraine, but that isn't holding the IU community back from showing its support. That support ranges from protests to fundraisers and now a concert. An IU Jacobs School of Music master student organized a fundraising concert at First United Church. The concert featured performances from students and faculty from the Jacobs School of Music. Guests were asked to donate and choose from a list of organizations supporting Ukraine. If you are still interested in donating, you can find the links on visitbloomington.com and search Concert for Ukraine. When we come back, cryptocurrency, one local brewery says it's a reasonable way to pay for a beer. We will get the details next.
Plus, we will show you where injured wild animals go to recover and tell you why the local animal shelter needs your help. Stay with us. One of the most controversial people to speak at IU in many years comes to campus tomorrow. Ann Coulter is a conservative author and Fox News contributor. Coulter speaks tomorrow night from 6 to 7 p.m. at the IMU. Coulter says she will talk about conservative values and what she called the leftist dogma at IU and many other schools. The event is free and open to the public, and she will take questions at the end.
Award-winning CNN anchor Frederica Whitfield will speak tonight in President's Hall. Whitfield is a part of the Media School Speaker Series and will also be honored with the Lee H. Hamilton Public Service Fellowship, an award given to prominent figures excelling in the values of public service. She has served as a journalist for over 30 years and has covered stories from the Olympics to presidential races and war.
This is more than icing on the cake. I'm not looking to be recognized. I'm never interested in being this story, but I'm motivated by being a part of the process of sharing information, helping to teach people about information. So I'm more than honored. I mean, I'm really, taken aback that I would be honored, and here to be a fellow at Indiana University for the job that I continue to love to do.
Whitfield will speak tonight in President's Hall at 5:30.
The O'Neill School here at IU has been ranked #1 in the nation for master's programs in public affairs. In the newly released U.S. News and World Report of Best Graduate School Rankings, the O'Neill School and the Maxwell School at Syracuse University tied for first. It marks the 6th straight year IU has held either first or second in the national rankings. IU also had 3 specialty areas ranked number 1 as it marks the 50th anniversary of the school.
Switchyard Brewing Company has a new way to pay for your beer, cryptocurrency. The brewery is allowing customers pay for their food and drinks with the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency is digital and is maintained through a decentralized system. That means the government doesn't regulate it and is less likely to be affected by inflation. Why is Switchyard including the option?
We think that that's kind of like the direction that things are going. And it's another form of payment, right? I mean, it's no different than accepting a check, but of course, no one writes checks anymore, really. And this just gives customers a different option and allows us to be kind of new and innovative, which is kind of what we do anyways.
Switchyard is the first brewery in Indiana to accept digital currency.
As the semester moves into its final stretch, many student organizations are preparing their final performances of the year. The female a cappella group Ladies First is doing just that. IU NewsNet's Greta Hembrook had the story.
Many student organizations on campus are gearing up for the last few weeks of the semester. Ladies First is doing it with song. The group, founded in 1999, is made up of women who make music only with their voices. They are one of a few a cappella groups on IU's campus and have been a fan favorite to listen to at IU and in the community. Ladies First will hold their spring concert at the Buskirk Chumley Theater on April 1st, this coming Friday at 8 p.m.
This show is really exciting because we have so many new songs, like more than we've honestly ever had. And so we've just been arranging a lot this semester and then learning immediately as soon as that arrangement is ready.
Along with their concert, Ladies First is also working in the recording studio. They have released 2 studio singles in the past month called The Parting Glass and What a Wonderful World.
So last year we had recorded an album that we're super excited about, and we wanted to kind of continue that this year with some singles. So this year being able to kind of come back from the pandemic and everything and have everyone back in the recording studio.
Singing isn't their only reason to be together. They are also all very close.
The girls, we are just the best of friends, and it's just the best environment, and we're such a team, and we just have so much fun outside of rehearsal, inside of rehearsal, and also I just love singing it. It's the coolest thing to be able to share this with people too.
For IU NewsNet, I'm Greta Hembrook.
An animal care facility that flies under the radar in Monroe County is asking for some public help. They specialize in helping wild animals recovering from injury, but soon they will need a new home. IU NewsNet's Kathleen Cox has the story.
Oh, there we go.
Wild Care Inc. is a local nonprofit rehabilitation center for native Indiana wildlife. They also host a number of educational animals for community outreach. The Department of Natural Resources has strict guidelines on interacting with wildlife, making it nearly impossible for the average person. That's where Wild Care comes in.
There's no other setting in which you can ethically be this close to wildlife and interact with it.
But regulation makes it similarly impossible to make money doing it. Wildlife rehabilitators are required to study for a year under a licensed fellow and buy necessary course material themselves.
I'm here inside the enclosure of Poppy the possum. It's an enclosure that's regulated by the DNR and the USDA. How large the enclosure is, how much food and water Poppy gets every day, the enriching items inside that help her feel like she's still in the wild, and on top of that, it has to be cleaned every 24 hours.
After becoming licensed, rehabilitators cannot charge for their services. And all of the expenses for these enclosures come out of the pockets of volunteers or donors. But the people who do the work find it rewarding enough to make it all worthwhile.
It's a little bit of a privilege to be able to go into something like conservation and rehab. But for me, it's meaningful enough to where I'm I I would probably do this for free.
From IU NewsNet, I'm Kathleen Cox.
Really motivated.
You can visit their website for more information at wildcareinc.org.
And now, so sweet loss for the IU women's basketball team. We will show you some players leaving the IU court for good.
Little 500 qualifications race passed us this weekend, and we have details for you on the weekend's best bikers. IU NewsNet Sports coming up next. Over the weekend, the Little Five Madness started with quals. This weekend, the spring series continues. IU NewsNet Brianna Baylog has sports for us this week.
That's right, Samantha. The Little Five is less than a month away, and the festivities are ramping up. The field is set, the Little 500 race is fast approaching, and quals for the 2022 race took place last weekend. Phi Kappa Psi came out top in the men's side with a time of 2 minutes and 30 seconds, while Kappa Alpha Theta led the women's field with a time of 2 minutes and 55 seconds. Phi Psi led much of the 2021 race, but ended up finishing 5th after a crash deterred the race. Given first choice of pit, both winners chose pit number 7 for the race at the back end of turn 1. From team events to solo ones, individual time trials got started Wednesday night. Weather played a big impact on the evening as 20-mile-an-hour winds swirled around riders during their 4 laps around the track. Thunderstorms in the Bloomington area halted individual races after 7:55 p.m., postponing the final 2 hours to Thursday. Jacob Richards of Grey Goat posted the best time of the abbreviated day, finishing with a time of 2 minutes and 28 seconds. By now you know that the season for the IU women came to an end in their Sweet 16 matchup with UConn. Last Saturday, the number 3 Hoosiers faced off against the number 2 Huskies in front of a large Connecticut fan base in Bridgeport, Connecticut. There, IU was unable to take down the re-owned UConn program as they handed IU a 75-58 loss. With IU's season coming to an end, so has playing in the cream and crimson for 4 of the Hoosiers. Junior guard Grace Wagner is foregoing her final year of basketball to focus on her studies. Senior starting forward Alexa Gouble will not use her extra year of COVID eligibility, so she can play professionally in Europe. And graduate starting guards Nicole Cardano-Hillary and Allie Papberg have reached their final years of playing time with the Hoosiers. Papberg has been with the program longer than anyone, with 7 years behind her belt, and our Audrey Hausberger sat down with the Indiana native in December before her last season kicked into high gear.
I always want people to remember how hard I played and how my attitude never changed, and I was always, the best teammate I could be. I always had energy.
Papberg hasn't announced what her next steps are, but head coach Terry Morin said that she wouldn't be surprised if Allie was working with IU women's basketball in some capacity in the near future. The men's Final Four and championship games are still to come this weekend, with the championship game taking place on Monday. Before eliminated teams like IU, the offseason is underway. IU NewsNet's Jack Edwards has the story.
It's a time of turnover for Indiana men's basketball. Transfers, coaches, and advancements to the professional level will lead to a new look Hoosier squad and staff when the new season comes back around. Starting in the back room, assistant head coach Dane Fife will not return to the IU staff next season, with Brian Walsh stepping in to replace him, as well as Asia Rosemond and Kenya Hunter receiving promotions to associate head coach. For Walsh, he's ready to be a mentor for players off the court.
You're going to win games, you're going to lose games, but it's about being here for these kids, not only on the floor, but off the floor in life, having them navigate academics, social life, what it looks like when they're done, just being someone that they can count on forever.
The group for Walsh to work with, however, will look very different, with 4 different Hoosiers entering the transfer portal, including Rob Finnessy, the man who hit arguably the biggest shot of IU's season. Losing a starter and role players will hurt, but it's not unmanageable.
They're all kind of depth rotational pieces. Parker Stewart was the only starter of those. Christian Lander played sparingly. Michael Durr played sparingly. They all kind of had brief windows where they were on the court. And Rob Finnessy did play a bigger role, but he was hurt.
On paper, losing 4 players to the transfer portal should raise alarm bells, but all across America, players are leaving earlier than normal.
This is happening all across America. When the transfer portal wasn't a thing, it was much more common to see people stay their entire 4 years, and now you see guys jumping around from year to year. So, I don't think it's any red flag. I think that's just how kind of college basketball works right now.
Yet to decide on their IU futures, however, are IU's leading 3 scorers, Xavier Johnson, Race Thompson, and a first-team All-Big Ten forward in Trace Jackson Davis. After Indiana's season ended against St. Mary's, Jackson Davis offered insight into his future.
I'll talk to Coach Woodson like I did last offseason, and then we'll go from there. So preparation and everything that I do, but I'll have a plan and set, but there's no timetable right now.
With an extra scholarship space, players still to decide, and 3 freshmen coming in next year, Indiana's new group is still a relatively blank canvas for Mike Woodson to paint. For IU NewsNet, I'm Jack Edwards.
After a 21-14 record in his first year, head coach Mike Woodson looks set to retool his roster and improve heading into a fresh season in the fall. The Indiana softball team notched a dramatic win during their midweek game against the Kent State Golden Flashes on Wednesday. Indiana had the game under control until the last inning when Kent State scored 5 runs to send it into extra innings. The Golden Flashes took the lead in the 9th, but when Indiana needed a spark, Aaliyah Andrews was their answer. Andrews hit a 3-run home run to tie it in the bottom of the 9th. However, freshman Brianna Copeland was the star of the show, hitting 3 home runs, including the walk-off home run to take the game. The Hoosiers will travel to Wisconsin next to take on the Badgers in a 3-game series. And that's a wrap on IU athletics for the week. Samantha, how's your bracket looking?
My bracket is not looking great, but there's always next year. Thanks, Rihanna. That's it for IU NewsNet for now. We have a behind-the-scenes student production team in the control room and working in the studio for this broadcast. We thank them and we thank you for watching. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at IU NewsNet. For my co-anchor, Steffi Zhang, I'm Samantha Condra. Take care, and we will see you next week.